stop apologizing for playing the same game that everybody else is playing. You guys, this is going to be the future of Africa in terms of money. I'm telling you, forget grants, forget venture capital. I'm sorry, the two wealth building of Africa is going to be family offices and private equity in terms of loans. And my fear is in the next 20 years, 90 to 95% of Africa is going to be owned by non-Black Africans. The game is rigged. I'm sorry, it really is. It seems like this game, some people have figured it out, they're playing it, they're building wealth. Meanwhile, the rest of us clearly don't have the language, we don't have the sophistication, we don't have the know-how. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Noemi & Co podcast. All right, so something that I've been thinking a lot about lately. You guys know, I think this year you're noticing I'm talking about things that may either get me canceled or I don't know, I hope I don't get killed. But something that I've been thinking a lot about when it comes to the African continent. What if the problem with the African continent is not that we're more corrupted than any other nation, but is that we're not as sophisticated and that we don't deliver? Hear me out, let me explain. This is a very uncomfortable thing to talk about. Something that I've noticed is many African countries, especially, I have to be specific, Black Africans, we are the loudest about things not going well in the African continent. And if you don't believe me, look Northern Africa, Morocco, they're doing amazing things. Believe me, they have their issues, but they don't feel the need to get on social media and talk as much as we do. We're the loudest. So here's the thing, when we talk about corruption in the African continent, we talk about it like it's a disease that's so unique to us. But mark my word, you guys know I love to travel. If you look at my content, I'm always somewhere and I love traveling. And something about traveling to other countries, especially countries in Asia, Latin America, you start to realize what we think is so unique to us is actually not. And that those nations, they were like us 20, 30 years ago. But what I'm really interested in is that this notion that we complain about is not unique to us. And I think we often talk about corruption from the lens of if we were to just get rid of corrupted African politicians, everything in Africa would be fine. And I don't think so. But here's what I think a lot about lately. I think the difference between what we call corruption and sophistication is not morality, is simply structure. And hear me out. Every wealthy nation, every wealthy economy has built systems that help them navigate the gap between how things should work and how they actually work. Right now, I'm in Nairobi, and this country is a prime example of that. And I think Nairobi, is actually going to be the next Dubai, and we'll talk about Dubai in a bit. So here's what I'm trying to say. So let's start with lesson number one, okay? And these are lessons that I'm noticing. And again, when we talk about this, we want to talk about it from a business standpoint and how do we as fellow African and diaspora capitalize in these chaotic structures. One, the West has institutionalized what I like to call gray areas. Gray areas is anything that's kind of fussy, fluid, we don't really know if it's right or wrong. They've institutionalized it, and Kenya is doing the exact same thing. This is what I mean. So let me give you guys a very simple example. So during COVID, I worked for a tech company out of Sacramento, that's San Francisco, but I was working remotely in San Diego. Part of my job was in the product, the tech side, so user research, but there was a clinical research team that worked very closely with the FDA. So occasionally we'll have to interact with the FDA. You guys, one thing I learned about the FDA, and for those of you who don't know what the FDA is, this is the United States Food Drug Administration. So this is the department that monitors anything that is food, pharmaceutical consumption for the American people. You gotta get approved. And me, I export honey. So to import honey into the United States, I have to have an FDA number, or else at customs, my items are not gonna be cleared and they're not gonna get out of the port. So while working for this tech company out of California, I'm not, when I say the FDA is 100 times worse than any African government that I've ever seen. You know why? Because the FDA, they're highly educated, they have lawyers, they have PhD holders, they have lawyers for their lawyers who knows the law. They've made the process so bureaucratic that it's insane. But guess what? if you know someone at the top level of the FDA and you have a tech startup out of San Francisco that does clinical trials and you need approval, it's gonna go a lot quicker. Or if you have a firm like Registrar Corp, for those of you that want to import food into the United States, here's a little plug. Registrar Corp will charge you $1,300 to $1,500 a year. They give you an FDA number. They know how to navigate the FDA bureaucracy. They walk you through how to make sure that your African production facility is all compliant with US regulations. Or if you're just an exporter, how to make sure that your supply goes with US laws, so that by the time anything you import into the US goes through. Ladies and gentlemen, they charge you $1,500 a year, sometimes $1,300. This is the thing with whether it's Registrar Corp, whether it's you knowing someone that works at the FDA. How is that different than when you come to sub-Saharan Africa, you need license at the port for these authority government, you know someone and you pay them a fee and they make sure that it goes through. Or a lot of people that I know in Congo have facilitation firms, so they call them consultancy. They know someone that works at that. If you pay him a fee, he'll make sure that everything gets approved and that your project goes through. How is that different? Same process, different language. And again, I think, and I mentioned this in my previous video, the difference with markets like the US, parts of Europe, they've standardized their pricing. In Africa, we're not as sophisticated about our service. 1 minute, that port guy is asking you for 100. The next day, he got drunk and he has family problems. He's asking you for 300. So as a business, you don't even know how to budget yourself. But to say that somehow Western institutions are more correct than we are, it's a lie. They just saw an opportunity in demand and chaotic structure. They structured it, hence the sophistication. Let me tell you guys another idea, another thing. One of my friends has a very successful firm. I don't know about successful, but he just started. So to me, it's already successful because I love to cheer my friends on. I'm super proud of him. So what he does, he helps wealthy people in Canada, US, move their money to Panama. So for those of you who don't know, Panama is kind of like Luxembourg. It's kind of like Mauritius. Panama has been known for what we call offshore accounts. You move your money from Canada to the US, where you're heavily taxed, into Panama, where Panama doesn't really have that many taxes or income tax and all that jazz, kind of similar to what Dubai does. And it makes it easy for you to have your money there. And so I look at that and I remember asking him, I was like, you know, I'm very fascinated to know, how did Panama, such a small country, manage to build its entire economy, not only from the Panama Canal, but through offshore accounts? Like, how? And what I realized is that Panama has legislated laws, policies, banking systems that makes it easy for you. I kid you not, if you are a scammer in the US, a scammer in Canada, you open an account in Panama, you can even get some kind of residency. They don't even ask you that many questions. They let you put your money there. And so to me, I look at that, I'm like, is that considered dirty? Is that considered bad? Or is it just structured? Because you talk to my friend who owns this firm, the man has an MBA. He will tell you like the good things about these accounts, but I'm like, well, no, isn't that corruption? He's like, no, it's not, Noemi. It's an entire country that legislated itself to help wealthy people move their money overseas. That way they're not taxed in their home country. But I'm like, but we were told that taxes is a good thing. Taxes for the middle class. We should all pay taxes. Tax the rich, blah, 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 blah. He's like, well, that's cute, but no. Who wants to build their wealth and be taxed by the government? That's not a thing. I was like, so I'm just saying. So when I look at that, like, do I call that corruption? No. It's called estate planning, international tax strategy. Ladies and gentlemen, notice a pattern. People who control monies and economies, they have the sophisticated language that you and I lack. Like, I'm out here being like, corruption. Meanwhile, Americans, they say lobbying. Same thing, different language. Luxembourg, Mauritius. For those of you who have never been to Luxembourg, it's a very boring country. I went there twice, and I probably won't go again. Honestly, the first time I was too young to have a say. My parents took me there for lunch. The second time was 3 years ago. I was in Belgium at my cousin's house. He lives at the border of Luxembourg. And I decided to just drive, have lunch there. I was so bored. It's such a tiny country. You can literally go through the whole country in one day if you wanted. Mauritius, I was there last year with family. Mauritius is one of those places when you hit burnout, you are done with Congo chaos. You just need 3-4 days at the beach of silence. Mauritius. Beyond 3 days, I would lose my mind. But these are countries that, unlike the DRC, unlike Sweden, let's be honest, they don't really have resources or minerals and all that sort. But the good thing about Mauritius is right by the water. So when it comes to trade, I can see it being of leverage or not for where it's positioned. Luxembourg, I don't get it. Like a tiny country really with nothing much. But here's where these countries are super smart, super smart. So these countries built their economies, again, like Panama, on offshore financial services. And I didn't understand what that meant. I was like, I look at a lot of venture capital firms in the US. A lot of them that invest in Africa have Mauritius accounts. A lot of people that are wealthy Europeans that are based out of Monaco, that are based out of Nice, France, they all have accounts in Luxembourg. I'm like, why? See, this is where my business brain kicks in, and I like to see patterns of where the monies are moving. And why is that we're not doing that in Africa? It's simple. Luxembourg, Mauritius, they have tax laws that their country have designed in very specific ways that billions of dollars are able to flow through their country every year. Is that corruption or is that a financial service? Let me explain. Dubai, for example. So everyone is obsessed with moving the money to Dubai. And I'm like, why? Because they have zero personal income tax. What does that mean? I'm a business owner. In Congo right now, the amount of harassment that I get from government officials to pay taxes on many levels. One, my land, the moment I bought land in Congo that I wanted to produce on, you get taxed just for that. Whereas people that just have land and don't exploit it, they don't worry about it. Number two, your employees. If your employees don't work for you for more than 3 months, they're considered full-time, it's a décompte, you gotta pay taxes on it. You guys, Dubai on the other hand, and by the way, if I earn money out of my business in Congo and I pay myself through banking and all that jazz, I gotta pay tax on it. Whereas Dubai, zero income tax. Any money that you make from your business, your earnings, you don't pay taxes on it. Zero capital gain, zero inheritance tax. All they have is a 5% VAT, which is really nothing. And honestly, they didn't just come up with this idea. I mean, if you look at the history of Dubai, this was like a desert. Like, they had nothing. It's an artificial economy. And today, they legislated it. So they structured an entire economy around this idea of let's attract people from everywhere in the world that have money, that live in countries where moving money in and out of the country is exhausting, or within the country there's too many fees, and make it appealing. And they do so by asking you very few questions. You can open an account. They don't even care where the money comes from. They just want you to put money there, and that 5% goes back to their economy. And this is the same pattern. The West and its allies, right? They have systemized these gray areas. They have built legal frameworks, professional services, entire industries around navigating these complex financial systems, moving money, right? And minimizing tax obligations. Well, Noemi, are you saying we shouldn't pay taxes and we should be against the government? That's not what I'm saying at all, but also know who you're listening to. I'm a businesswoman. I believe when government are too involved in legislation, when government are taxing people too much, what's the incentive for a person to earn or build a business there when it goes to government? And the worst part is when it goes to a government and then you don't really see the benefit on your end. So this is what I mean by calling it sophistication, right? Like, we call it innovation, we call it competitiveness, but when Africans do the same thing, or if we try to do the same thing, we call it corruption. And often it's us that do that, right? And here's a solution for you as you're hearing me talk about this and I'm navigating this. Stop moralizing and start structuring, right? Like, this is something that I talk a lot about in my podcast. As members of the African diaspora and African culture, I don't know if this is because of religion that we got through colonization. I don't know if this is because we're very emotional people, but we battle with our morality. And half the time we don't even know the final level of morality. Like, but yet structuring and sophisticating wealth is seen as morally wrong. And what I mean by that is the question is not, is this pure? The question is this structure well enough to protect me, my asset, and my family for generational wealth? Literally, you look at a lot of Lebanese in Africa, they figured this out generations ago, because right now Lebanon is a mess. Money's not really flowing over there, but Africa is the land of the free, and they figure this out. They use Dubai as a structure, and it's not just Lebanese. Like, I don't want to stigmatize them. Everyone does it. They have companies in bank accounts in Dubai, money's wired there, and now Dubai accepts crypto, which is backed by Ledger, not by the US dollar. So Mauritius, most people, and Mauritius even has a publicly traded stock account, a stock market. Most people have a Mauritius account, even American venture capital funds. So it's a very simple tool that everyone is using, but most Black Africans. And so this is just what I really want you guys to really think about is our capital sits in checking accounts, which is done because with inflation, you're just losing. Or we send money as remittance because of emotions and its consumption, but it's never invested. So we need to learn how the game is actually played rather than how we wish it was played. And I think this is a constant battle that I think we battle with as fellow Africans, not seeing the world for what it is, rather seeing it for what we were told by the leaders, the elites, the the oligarchy to believe. And we drank that Kool-Aid and we just have a hard time reverse engineering it. And that's why I'm here for you, okay? So lesson number 2. This one, American venture capital funds, they want to fund Congolese startups, but only through Mauritius accounts. And the same for a lot of Ghanaian accounts. So a lot of countries, especially Ghana, I think it's actually harder because they don't use the dollar as like a main currency, whereas Congo we do. But the reason I bring this up, recently I was actually, there's a few funds that wanted to fund my business, but a lot of them walk away because the Congo is too informal. I don't know how to navigate informal. We need better banking system before we can fund you. I'm like, okay, fine. But what I did notice is that a lot of venture capital funds that are funding startups in Africa, in countries like Congo, Ghana, you name it, they will, but they almost never put money in Congolese bank accounts, especially if they want shares. A lot of them will make you open a bank account in Mauritius, and they'll actually help you navigate it. And I was like, wait, why is that? Don't get me wrong, Congolese banks, I think, are so difficult that I don't even like them. The amount of money you pay in fees with raw bank equity is insane to me. So from that point, I get it. But then I'm like, but that's also weird. That's weird. You're funding a startup, even a tech one, in Congo, but you want the bank account to be open in another jurisdiction. Why is that? And this is what I figured out. It's because Mauritius accounts signals to investors, especially Western investors, especially Americans, that it's a sophisticated law system. It means that startup has a legal counsel. It means that they have a clean corporate structure. It means that investor at any point can check the jurisdiction, the law in where that startup is registered in Mauritius. And if ish hit the fan, the investor is at least covered. The DRC bank account signals risk. I will put money in your account, you will empty it, off you go. As an investor, I cannot follow you. Even if the business is exactly the same, but the fact that it's registered in Mauritius for a Western investor signals trust, safety. And this is not irrational, this is not personal. You guys, an investor has to mitigate its own risk. If you are an investor and you're investing in a company in a country where the banking system is not reliable, where the banker and the investee can make a deal, empty the account and run with the money, whereas Mauritius, there's all these structures in place, you would do the same, right? And I really think the problem is African founders don't understand this, therefore they get locked out of deals. And it's so easy to open a bank account in Mauritius. It's actually not that hard, and it's actually not that costly. But a lot of African founders raising capitals don't understand this. And this is what Noemi's here for you, honey. Like, a lot of African startups, they think that you have to clean up their own country first. Like, you think as an individual, you're gonna fix the entire country of Congo? Be so for real. Like, they think that they need to fight corruption at home before they can access capital overseas. No, those are two different battles. And I really don't even think that's your job. If you're listening to this, your job is to build businesses. As a founder, you need to understand that opening an account in another jurisdiction protects you way more than your own country. And that's the game how it's played. So this is not backward. You don't need to fix the DRC to raise money. No, that is a different problem on its own. You need to build a structure that signals to investors that they can trust you. Okay? I hope that makes sense. And the good example that I wrote down is the Chinese. Chinese companies, you guys, they don't wait for Africa legal system to improve. They probably even lost hope in that. They create their own structures. A lot of Chinese companies, what they do is they use Hong Kong holding companies. They use bilateral investment treaties. They navigate the system as it is. And this is what this means for you. If an investor that you're reaching out to, be honest with yourself. They likely want you to have a Mauritius holding company, and that is not a bad thing. Set up one. It's very easy. It's not that expensive, but what it does is signals to the investor that you are a trustworthy investee. Number 3, Dubai. You guys, woo, Dubai. This city needs to be studied for strategic legislation, and I am baffled that more Africans are not doing the Dubai play. And I think Kenya is gonna be the next Dubai. And I see this as I'm sitting in Nairobi because Kenya has captured something that people are overlooking. They've mastered the banking system, which means that loans are becoming easier and easier in Kenya. They're starting to manufacture stuff, which means that they go to neighboring African countries, Congo, Uganda, Tanzania, where legislation, infrastructure, you name it, is just too difficult. They take the raw good, bring it to Kenya, where we're not gonna ask you too many questions, but you're gonna pay a tax. But you're gonna build it here, and once it's built here, we're gonna give you loans to help you build these things and these assets that you then get to use in other parts of Africa, make money, and pay back the loan. You guys, this is a Dubai play. So Dubai 50 years ago, from what I understand, it was a fishing village. Like, this is insane. Today, Dubai has become the global financer. It's the epicenter of finance. And they didn't do it by accident. It was well planned out. And if you look at the Arabic diaspora, one of the smartest, educated, smart diaspora is the Gulf Arabia. And I applaud them. So what they did, they legislated the capital. So what does that mean? Any money you make, any money you invest, they've made the fee very low. So 0 on personal income tax. If I'm making money out of my business and I'm not being taxed for it, sign me up. 0 capital gains, 0 inheritance tax, a simple 5% VAT, which is really not that bad. Free zones where foreign investor can own 100% of their business. No currency control. You know how much I get killed by FX fees from the franc to the dollar, shillings to the dollar? Like, the legal system is based on English common law. This is just genius. Dubai made it easy to move money in and out. And ladies and gentlemen, this is from the beginning of time. When you're able to move money cross border, it's what people want. And now they've even allowed crypto. This is a huge game changer. So what does that mean? Capital gets flooded in, real estate boom. Now I think it's getting hard actually to buy real estate. Tourism exploded. The service sector grew, company diversified from oil. Don't forget, this is Gulf Arabia. So what Dubai had to do was create pretty much an artificial economy away from oil, because it's never a good idea when a country's economy is only dependent on one resource. You gotta diversify. Now, let's compare that to most of Africa. Our currency makes it so hard to move money. You guys, to transfer money from Congo to Kenya, Equity Bank, you're transferring from Equity Bank Congo to Equity Kenya, Equity Bank, a East African bank, by the way, minimum fee for 4.5%. And if you're going from the dollar to the shilling, you are losing even more. To transfer money from Congo to Ivory Coast, from God knows where, Senegal to South Africa, you guys, the fees are exacerbated. Why don't we have a country or a city that can legislate stuff like Dubai, where this is the one country in Africa where we can easily open accounts, we can transfer between countries, and it doesn't make it hard? Why? Ladies and gentlemen, we have tax systems in Africa that are so opaque, so unpredictable based on people's mood and frustration and family problems. We have legal systems that investors just don't trust. And for once, I'm putting myself in the shoe of investors. I don't blame them. We have visa policies that make it so hard for business people to even come. To come to Congo, because I'm native Congolese, it says on my Canadian passport, it's different. And I have a permanent visa in DRC that allows me to come in easily. But if you are not Congolese native or born, or if you're Congolese and you're not even born in Congo and it doesn't show on your passport, or you're a foreigner, one foreigner pays $300 coming into Congo from the US, the other one pays $200, another one pays $350. It's so unpredictable. And I'm like, why are we making it so hard? That being said, to be fair, to get a visa to go to the US as a Congolese is brutally hard. It's so difficult because they always assume that we're coming in and we're gonna seek asylum and not leave. So I get that, but this is different. This is a power dynamic where wealthy nations have the luxury of making it difficult for less wealthy nations to come in. We're trying to reverse engineering. We want Africa to be a marketplace. We want Africa to be a place where you and I can create business easily. And that requires making the environment easy for foreigners to come in and do business. It's just the truth. Why do you think tourism is one of the top industries recommended by economists for an economy to thrive? You gotta make the border easy to be accessible. And I think the diaspora angle is this. You guys, we send billions of dollars in remittance every year, but that money goes to consumption. School fees for that child that, let's be honest, never gonna be a scholar. Someone's always dying, healthcare and all that jazz, and we feel emotional, we feel the obligation to pay. But why are we not using that capital to invest and build a structure for all Africans to benefit? Like, I'm a bit confused here. Why are we pulling that money for productivity and build the next Dubai? Why is it that Indians, Lebanese, Chinese, they're opening family offices in Africa? Indians are lending within the community. You rarely see Indians apply for funding for grants or venture capital. They don't need it. The community is lending it to them. The Chinese have state-backed investment capital in Hong Kong. Why don't we have that? And before you think that you need billions of dollars to start something like that, you don't. You just need structure. Ladies and gentlemen, the solution is actually quite clear. We need to stop waiting for permission from government to create Dubai-style structure. Again, I'm not saying don't listen to the government. No. But what I am saying is, as people, we need to stop waiting for permission. Start. Government is government. They're always going to exist, and you need good governance, actually. But to wait for permission before starting to be the next Dubai is dumb. And this is what I think we need to do. We need to create our own structure. That means setting up legal holding companies in jurisdictions like Mauritius that people can trust, aka investors. Pooling capital with other diaspora members to create an investment fund and actually delivering. Creating investment vehicles that can deploy capital at scale. Let's stop investing in things based on survival. Oh, I can only put $100 towards this maize project. It's corn. You need millions of dollars. And if 10, 20, 30 of you were to get together and figure that out, it could work. Learn how to structure deals that protects everybody so everybody can win. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not about being a sellout, invading taxes, cutting corners. No, this is not what this is how economics are built. This is how wealth is built. The difference is you and I are just not playing the right game and we're being left out. The Indians have figured this out generations ago. The Lebanese have figured it out even though the country is a mess. The Chinese have figured it out. Now it's our turn. Lord. All right, lesson number four. Lesson number four. And I know this one, I always talk about this one, and I have to talk about it until we figure this one out. This is what I call the diaspora morality loop. I think this is our biggest battle as Black Africans. Like, we have such a hard time with the moral compass. right versus wrong, just versus unjust, fairness versus unfairness, corruption versus sophistication. Like, we battle with that, and it blocks us, it stops us from proceeding. And this is what I mean. I've noticed something about us is that we're stuck in this loop. We see offshore accounts and we think dirty. I did. When my friend started his offshore venture in Panama, I'm like, you're a crook. That's what I thought. I'm guilty of this too, don't get me wrong. When we see tax exemption, like Dubai, we think, oh, they're cheating, they're cutting corners. We see Dubai holding companies, the first thing we think of is money laundering. I'm gonna be honest, I'm guilty of this. I've thought about that a lot of times. I'm like, you're sketchy, you're hiding something. Meanwhile, everybody else, I don't care if you are white, if you are Indian, if you are Lebanese, if you are Chinese, if you're Korean, everyone else that steps a foot into the African soil has figured this out. What they do, they structure their business, their money, their ventures without a second thought. The Indians in Africa, they use Mauritius. The Chinese, they use Hong Kong. Meanwhile, what are we doing? Collecting a basic ass paycheck. I'm so sorry, I had to say it. And why are we different? And I think it's because we have a tendency of internalizing the victim mentality. Yes, those of you listening are gonna be like, girl, be quiet, stop preaching. I'm sorry, I have to preach based on what I'm observing on the continent and overseas. We've been told that the system is rigged against us. No, I kid you not, we've been told that. Look, like literally we've been told that. And we've responded by being pure, by being docile, by being holy. Meanwhile, everybody else plays this game. We've stayed inside the line. We've become risk adverse. I'm telling you, if you want to ever succeed in business, you have to build the muscle for risk. That being said, calculated risk, but you got to build the muscle for risk. And thinking that you can build your wealth when Africa becomes structured and perfect, good luck. That means you're too late. It is in the imperfect, and you come in, you structure the chaos, that you win. Let that sink in a little bit. And you guys, what we do, we try to avoid anything that's questionable rather than studying structure, rather than studying how money flows. And here's the thing, the people who wrote these rules, these lines that we stay in, they themselves don't follow the rules. I'm sorry, the United States is an economy that's built on keeping certain people at the bottom. And the people that built that system, they're not following the rules. The difference is the current presidency has just exposed that. It's always been like that. Africa, it's the same thing from colonial time to today. It's the same people that control the system. Meanwhile, we follow what they tell us to follow. And our money goes to consumption. It rarely goes to assets that are generating cash flow. And over time, the gap compounds. Compounding means it adds up over time. Those people that tell us what to do, they build wealth off our backs. Meanwhile, we build very mediocre, sad family memories. And the solution is not to become corrupted. I repeat, it is not the solution. And what is corruption? Ladies and gentlemen, it is a misuse of public funds. You paying someone to move your goods is a service. It is not corruption because he did not deliver or because he's bribing you for double the cost. No, that just means he's just bad at business. And you need to be smart at negotiating. Ladies and gentlemen, the solution is to become sophisticated. The solution is to structure within the chaos. The solution is to pull capital as a collective into assets that generate cash flow. And this means learning how trust works. Not just fearing it, learning how holding companies work. Why is it that Rockefeller built his wealth on the oil rig in the United States on a holding company rather than a corporation? Learn it. Learn why Rockefeller started opening the foundation, which is what they're now known for. How is it that the foundation helped him with taxes? Learn it. Understand laws, jurisdiction diversification, not just hearing offshore accounts and think dirty. Build professional networks. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the biggest thing you're gonna learn, and it took me too long to learn this. You need to build a strong network of certain types of people. Money moves among communities. In your wealth building, in your carnet d'affaires, in your network, have a lawyer, have an accountant, have a banker. These are the three people that you're gonna need. And these people can be the lawyer next door, but just make sure that they're legit. You're gonna need them because these three folks helps you structure your wealth. Create family offices. You guys, this is gonna be the future of Africa in terms of money. I'm telling you, forget grants, forget venture capital. I'm sorry, the two wealth building of Africa is gonna be family offices and private equity in terms of loans. It's gonna be the future. I said it here. And what are family offices? You are a family, you build wealth via various ways. Now you're taking that money and you're betting on other businesses by having shares in those businesses. What I love about family offices, especially for Africa, they play the long game. Venture capital is a quick hockey stick win, which I don't think Africa is built for. Another one, investment vehicles and holding companies that are legitimately hold your money and grow your money across borders. Learn these things. Ladies and gentlemen, let's stop apologizing for playing the same game that everybody else is playing. Let's stop apologizing. I don't understand why we do that. The game is rigged. I'm sorry, it really is. It seems like this game, some people have figured it out. They're playing it, they're building wealth. Meanwhile, the rest of us clearly don't have the language. We don't have the sophistication. We don't have the know-how. And in a world where information has become so cheap, aka artificial intelligence, we no longer have an excuse. It's rigged. The system is rigged in the favor of people who understand the rules, including the unwritten rules. Ladies and gentlemen, there are certain rules in life that is unwritten that you need to learn to observe and understand and systemize. You can understand this at every level and ask the good questions and go ahead and ask if it's clean or dirty, up to you. Or you can learn how these systems actually work, build the structure and play accordingly. This is the thing that really scares me with Africa, and I'm going to close on this note. The way artificial intelligence is heading, and I talked about my take on the future of AI in Africa, the way information is now traveling, the way innovation is now going, we're going to have the largest young population in the world. We're going to have the cheapest labor in the world, even cheaper than China. That labor is going to be useless. We as educated Black Africans, we have drank the Kool-Aid of corporate America, of the bureaucracy of the Belgian system, the French system, and we've been told to have intellectual white-collar jobs that are now becoming obsolete. Everybody else is now coming to Africa as the last frontier, and they're gonna want a piece of the pie. And my fear is in the next 20 years, 90 to 95% of Africa is gonna be owned by non-Black Africans, which means we're gonna be at their mercy for pennies. And I really think that we need to stop spending so much time talking about corruption in Africa. Like, even that word, I've decided to stop using it, because if Americans in Washington, D.C. call it lobbying, why am I using the corruption word, the C word? We need to stop always focusing on how our leaders are stealing and how the system is broken. You, don't get me wrong, acknowledge it, know that it's there, and it's not okay. I'm not saying that it's okay. I will never say that it's okay, because trust me, I'm building on this continent, and I'm like, it is 10 times harder than building something in the United States, because things just seem so much harder here because the structure is rigged. That being said, in all of this, it's not the entire story. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking all of us to start studying systems. The West, the Gulf Arabia, Europe, they have figured out how to systemize gray area. They've even turned it into industries that are monetizing. They call it estate planning. They call it tax strategy. They call it jurisdiction diversification. They call it lobbying. They build legal frameworks, professional services, entire industries around this gray area that we call corruption. The difference is not morality, it's sophistication. It's seeing demand. It's seeing that this is a bottleneck, this is a pain point. I have the relationship with X, Y, and Z to move the dial. So let me turn this into a consultancy firm and find clients that will pay me for this. And until we understand that, we'll keep sending billions of dollars in remittances to Western Union, World Remit, NALA, and we will own nothing. We'll keep waiting for our government to fix themselves while others are building structures in the chaos. Like, how is it that everyone is coming to the African continent, becoming millionaires, but us as Black Africans, statistically, there's some doing it. Shout out to Nigeria, they're doing it. But even Nigeria, statistically speaking, it's still not enough of us killing it in this continent. And what I really think the question should be, are we gonna keep moralizing? Are we gonna keep whining? Or are we gonna start structuring? I'm gonna be fully honest, and I'm gonna say this out loud. I've made my choice, and honestly, if you want to learn how to structure frameworks, this is why I have my Substack news channel. This is why I'm working on the Diaspora Playbook, which is a book that I'm going to launch soon. I've reached a point where after living in DRC for 4 years full time, now I split my time between Nairobi and Congo. And I'm going to be really honest, I'm done. I'm done engaging in conversation with people that want to whine, that want to complain, that want to say machin machin. Meanwhile, every other ethnicity around me seems to be succeeding. They seem to see things for what it is, and they move accordingly and they build. So I hope this helps. This is not some tangent to discourage you, but this is to call each of us to see things for what they are, structure it, learn from other nations that are more similar to us than, say, Europe or the US. Dubai did it. China did it. And these countries, if you go back a couple centuries, they were like us. So they did it. What's stopping us? And more importantly, I don't even think you need to look that far. Look within the continent. Look at Nairobi. Look at Abidjan. Look at Dakar. How is it that these other cultures are succeeding in structuring despite the chaos, despite us whining all the time? Meanwhile, we love to go on social media and trash and bash each other, but these guys are working in silence and making money moves. And we can't blame them. They figured out the game and they're playing accordingly. Meanwhile, we refuse to accept that the system is rigged, and instead of structuring and monetizing and seeing it as a business opportunity, we're whining. Anyways, I hope this was insightful. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, and if you want to get more tools, frameworks on structuring despite the chaos, I think my Substack is actually the best place to start. And so yeah, thank you for listening.